Most Scream fans already know about how Scream 2022 paid tribute to Wes Craven, the director of Screams 1 through 4, by naming a character after him, having a house party dedicated to that character after his death, and repeating the words "for Wes" as the first thing we see in the end credits. What you might not have noticed was the hidden meaning behind Wes's phone number. The 707 is just the area code for the part of Northern California where Woodsboro would be located, and all of the Woodsboro characters have this area code. But 1939 refers to the year that Wes Craven was born. We actually see Craven's birthday come up again later during the YouTube video about Stab 2021. The channel's subscriber count is 821,939, which could be read as 8/2/1939. Under the American date format of month, day, year, this represents August 2, 1939, the day Wes Craven was born. This page contains a lot of other Easter eggs, including other hidden dates in the numbers. To learn about many classic cameos, secrets on tattoos, and meanings behind names on cell phones, stick around to the end of this video. Welcome to Things You Missed. When I heard there was going to be a new Scream movie, I was hoping the franchise would come back to tackle the phenomenon of requels, like Halloween 2018, Jurassic World, and Candyman 2021. Then I started watching Scream 2022 and realized, oh yeah, Screeform already was a requel. Also, I generally don't really like requels. But what I do like about them is that they're basically Easter nests. What do I mean by that? A nest is somewhere where you might find a lot of eggs. In this case, Easter eggs, as in the hidden secrets found in contemporary media. One of my favorite things to analyze on Things You Missed. So let's get into the things you missed. Each entry in the Scream franchise serves as a satire of the horror genre, and sometimes of media franchises as a whole. As you are very aware of if you've seen my previous videos on Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, and Screeform, there are a few franchises that they'd like to use as a blueprint of sorts. First, there's Halloween, the movie shown in the first Scream, which served as an example of horror movie rules. Then there's Star Wars, which was most heavily discussed in Scream 3 when the characters were trying to figure out the rules for trilogies. Finally, there's Scream, which also exists in universe where it's known as the Stab franchise. So many things that happen in Scream 2022, from bigger plot points to little moments, are callbacks to things that have happened in the Scream franchise, which is also fitting for a requel because these movies often share the concept of it's happening again. So for the third time in franchise history, it starts with a phone ringing, then a female picking it up and speaking to an anonymous caller, then she starts playing with a knife block, and then she gets attacked by Ghostface and she kicks her attacker in an attempt to escape. Then, in a parallel to Scream 1, a group of friends discusses the attack the next day while sitting outside of Woodsboro High School while eating grapes. We find out boyfriend and girlfriend Chad and Liv aren't sleeping together, like Sidney and Billy in Scream, and an announcement from the high school principal cancels classes, just like in Scream. But did you notice who the new principal was?
Attention Panthers! A reminder that all classes and school activities are canceled tomorrow due to public safety concerns.
According to executive producer Chad Villela in this interview with Bloody Disgusting, that was a voice cameo from Drew Barrymore, who is known for playing Casey Becker in the original Scream. There are many other voice cameos present in the movie. Most of them can be heard during Amber's party. The first comes from Matthew Lillard, who played Stu in Scream. Fitting, considering that this is Stu's old house. Several cameo voices overlap when the guests make a toast to the character Wes.
Hey, to Wes!
To Wes!
The article states that many people who knew Wes Craven contributed voices for this line, including 3 Scream actors: Henry Winkler, who played Principal Himbry, Adam Brody, who played Officer Haas in Screeform, and Hayden Panettiere, who played Kirby. Co-director Tyler Gillette added that Jamie Kennedy, who played Randy in the original Scream trilogy, contributed this line.
Somebody's goofy ass dad is kicking us out.
Which he actually says right while his character is delivering his lines in Stab, which is playing on the TV, where we can see another cameo. Co-director Matt Bettinelli-Olpin revealed that he plays the on-screen Michael Myers in the movie within the movie within the movie. Maybe we should stop calling it Scream and start calling it Shrek, because this thing has got layers. Speaking of Halloween, there's also a reference to its director.
My name is Samantha Carpenter.
This is an homage to Halloween director John Carpenter, or possibly Wes Carpenter.
Duck other said, you're starting to sound like some Wes Carpenter flick or something.
The new directors for Scream 2022 went a little bit crazy with references to Wes Craven's body of work, starting with Sidney Prescott's address.
It's Sidney Prescott and she lived on Elm.
Although it was mentioned in the original script, I don't think that Sid's street address was ever brought up in the first movie. But Elm is a reference to Elm Street from Wes Craven's famous franchise A Nightmare on Elm Street. We actually see the Elm Street intersection later when Sam and Richie roll into town. Then, when we're reintroduced to Dewey, you can see his list of cell phone contacts if you pause at the right moment. One of his contacts is Christy, which is probably a reference to Christy Parker from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. Christy is played by Patricia Arquette, the real-life sister of Dewey's actor, David Arquette. Also of note in Dewey's list of contacts is B. Miska, which is a nod to Brad Miska, the owner of horror movie news website Bloody Disgusting, which may explain why they have all these exclusive interviews with the directors and producers, which I keep referencing. During the YouTube scene later on, the Related Videos panel also suggests an upload from the Bloody Disgusting channel, another exclusive interview, but we'll get to that later. Under B. Miska, keeping up with the theme of internet horror personalities, is Mr. Morris. That's me, Zach Morris. You might be thinking, no, that's just the father of Olivia Morris from Screeform, but no, she doesn't have a father.
Your mom home?
She's her boyfriend.
So it must be talking about me. If Dead Meat gets to be in it, I get to be in it too, damn it. Another one of Dewey's contacts is Judy, which is probably just Judy Hicks, his old deputy at the police station. I was thinking it's kind of a shame that he never got with her after he split up with Gale, but who knows, maybe he actually did. Actually, now that I think about it, she must have already had a kid by the time she was hitting on Dewey in Screeform, so that's weird. We actually see her list of contacts too, and you can spot more Wes Craven related homages. Tina G represents Tina Gray from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Leroy is a character from Craven's 1991 film, The People Under the Stairs. Nancy T, of course, is Nancy Thompson, the main girl from A Nightmare on Elm Street. B. Adams is Brandon Adams, the actor who played Fool in The People Under the Stairs. Under her son, there are 3 deputies listed. Deputy Vincent and Deputy Farney are actual characters in the movie. Deputy Keith is not. I'm guessing this is a crew reference Easter egg because the movie's production designer is named Chad Keith. For all the Wes Craven related Easter eggs, it seems like there's only one Easter egg related to Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter of Screams 1, 2, and 4. It comes when Tara is in the hospital watching an episode of Dawson's Creek. This is season 1, episode 11, The Scare, which was written by Williamson, and the episode itself is kind of a spoof of the original Scream. Like I said, there are a lot of layers to this. We're not done with the Wes Craven Easter eggs though. I'll be continuing to analyze those, and Richie's big slip up that would have given him away as the killer if only his girlfriend had noticed. Throughout the movie, we see a couple of memorials to past characters. Dewey has a box dedicated to his sister Tatum, and Martha has a home theater dedicated to her brother Randy. On the mantle, there's also a photo of a movie theater marquee with 3 movies playing: A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Hills Have Eyes, and Last House on the Left, all Wes Craven directed films. Sam Carpenter is essentially the new Sidney Prescott in this movie. Much like Sidney's father in the original, we learn Sam's mom is out of town. Both of their mothers are cheaters, both characters have some psychological issues caused by Billy Loomis, Sidney because Billy killed her father, and Sam because Billy is her real father. Throughout the series, I've discussed how Sidney shares similarities with Halloween's protagonist Laurie Strode. Sam takes after her as well. Laurie was a babysitter in the original Halloween, and it turns out that Sam has some experience in childcare as well.
These are Chad and Mindy, the twins, and Wes. I used to babysit them all.
The first victim to die this time around is Vince, who we eventually learn to be Stu Macher's nephew. In a requel, everyone has to have some dumb reason to be related to legacy characters. There's also a little clue about this in the opening scene, where Tara looks up the cast of the original Stab on her phone. There's a new addition here, a cast member who wasn't specified back in Scream 2, and that is Vince Vaughn playing the role of Stu Macher. So the names Vince and Stu are kind of linked from the very beginning. There's also a detail on the hood of Vince's car. Not only a movie detail, but like an actual car detail. The words "six-pack" are written there, perhaps a hint that we'll be seeing a 6th movie. Also, this guy parked in front of him is parked in front of a fire hydrant. Come on, man, the cops are right there. Vince also has a Jason tattoo. This is probably a red herring, making the audience think that he might be the killer, considering the line that Richie said earlier.
And I gotta make sure we don't get sliced up by some lunatic who saw Friday the 13th and thought, you know what, that Jason guy, he's got some pretty solid ideas.
Of course, Vince ends up being a victim, not a killer. During his death scene, we hear the song Red Right Hand, which appeared in every Scream movie besides Screeform, so it's good to see it back on rotation here. Ghostface actually takes out Vince with his own switchblade, not the usual Ghostface knife. I'm guessing this is just another red herring though, to make it look like Vince was somehow connected. Finally, after like 35 minutes, we see Sidney Prescott. She's a runner now, which seems like a reasonable hobby after a lifetime of being chased by psychopaths, and she finally owns a cell phone. She never had one in Screeform, but seeing as how that didn't prevent her from being targeted by the next Ghostface, she probably decided to just cave in and get one. Dewey mentions that she's married to someone named Mark. There is a Mark in the Scream franchise, that is Detective Mark Kincaid, the cop from Scream 3, who weirdly came back to her house and watched movies with the trio at the end. One of the Bloody Disgusting articles that I mentioned earlier addresses this. The executive producer confirms that Sidney's husband is indeed Mark Kincaid. I can't say this fully makes sense to me, because where was he in Screeform and where is he now? And why is Sidney's name still Sidney Prescott? I'm guessing she still wanted to take advantage of the notoriety of her name for her career as an author. The original Scream featured a scene known as the video store scene, where Randy speculates on who the killer might be. Every subsequent sequel so far has had its own version of the video store scene. This time it's the Randy Meeks Memorial Theater scene, and Mindy, the new Randy, fills the gang in on her ideas about who might be guilty. At one point during the scene, Dewey refers to Stu Macher as a real Looney Tune. This might be a reference to the fact that Stu was in the 2003 movie Looney Tunes Back in Action, where he plays himself, Matthew Lillard, arguing with Shaggy, also voiced by Lillard, about the quality of his performance in Scooby-Doo the movie. A scene probably meta enough to be in a Scream movie, if we're being honest. In the background, there's a Vertigo poster. This is now the third Scream movie in a row to reference Vertigo, starting with Sarah's line in Scream 3 and this poster in Scree form. Vertigo is directed by Alfred Hitchcock, who borderline invented the slasher genre with his movie Psycho. Psycho has been referenced in every Scream movie, and that continues here, with this poster, Amber imitating the Psycho soundtrack as she gestures her knife. One of the Ghostface killers even directly cites the movie this time around.
Ever seen the movie Psycho?
And then we cut directly to this shot, where Wes is taking a shower. It's the same camera angle used in the shower scene from Psycho, and subsequently the shower scene from Stab in the second Scream. The next character to die is Wes. As I mentioned, he gets out of the shower and explores downstairs. In the kitchen, there's a note from his mom. Wes, lemon squares in the fridge, love mom. This is a callback to Judy's famous lemon squares, which she made for Dewey in Scree form.
Sheriff, you're not cheating on your wife if you eat my lemon square.
The ones that Gale found disgusting.
Your lemon squares taste like ass.
Speaking of whom, she returns to the story by stepping out of this KQIS6 news van. It's the same station that Gale worked for in Scream, but ever since then, she's worked other jobs, such as Up to Date, 60 Minutes 2, Total Entertainment, and she even went rogue for a while. Seeing her back at her original station is exactly the choice you'd expect from a requel looking not to upset the status quo. At this point, Dewey and Gale are divorced, an event we already saw brewing in Scree form, but it sounds like their divorce went exactly like their breakup in between Scream 2 and Scream 3. Gale gets an important job opportunity in a big city, and the two can't make it work long distance. Dewey belongs in Woodsboro, Gale belongs in a big city reporter job. Once again, history seems to be repeating itself with these two. Despite Gale being back in her old job, the underlying theme about the media and its effect on real-world violence is not as present in the new Scream like it was in the first four movies. We do get a little bit of discourse about the entertainment news industry at the end, where Richie seems to imply that he was driven to the brink partly by the media blaming fans for the poor reception of the new Stab movie, but I see that as just one aspect of a bigger conversation around this idea of toxic fandom. So what is toxic fandom? Is it real? Is it a problem? Should we be worried about it? The most agreed upon definition reads, when a person believes that they have the only correct way of appreciating certain content. They will attack other fans and disagree with them even when they're discussing a topic that the toxic fan knows little about or has only heard from secondhand sources. I will add that it seems that toxic fandom has also become a buzzword used by journalists or salty creators to try to get clicks and sway a narrative. For example, let's say a new movie from a popular franchise comes out and it's bad. Those involved might soon be crying about toxic fandom to try to make all criticisms look invalid. I'm sure there are fans in those cases who dislike that new movie merely because it does not fit their belief about what the franchise should be like, but that does not make the entire fandom toxic. And it shouldn't invalidate good criticisms based on the quality of the work. So is it a problem? Should we be worried about it? At the end of the day, it's all just online discourse. There's no reason to take it that seriously. I feel like I can offer a unique perspective here as someone who is both a fan and a creator. As a fan, I try to separate my bias from my critique. For example, I don't really like the concept of Toy Story 4 because I think the third was such a perfect ending. But I don't think it's a bad movie. I mean, I recognize that it's well made for what it is. But when something is bad, I think it's important to be vocal about it in a constructive way. As a fan, it shows that you care, and a good creator will take quality criticism into account for future work. As a creator, you have to be able to separate good criticism from comments by those who are never gonna like your content in the first place. And that brings us to my favorite cameo in the movie, the Dead Meat cameo. And this webpage has more hidden content than you could possibly imagine. For those unaware, the couple behind the Film Fells channel, which Richie can be seen watching on his laptop, is actually James A Janice and his wife Chelsea, the hosts of YouTube's biggest horror movie channel, Dead Meat, who we can actually see a real upload from in the recommended bar on the right. It struck me as strange that they would use a made-up brand for their channel, because this is a Scream movie. All the movies and shows referenced tend to be real movies and shows from our world, the only exception being Stab, which is a stand-in for a real franchise, the Scream franchise. I figured I might as well go straight to the source on this one because I can, so I asked asked James why that might be. This is what he had to say. Mostly because we're being a-holes in it. It's a parody of more toxic YouTube channels that cover movies. It's not meant to be us or dead meat. And I think that's a great answer because it fits right in with what I was saying earlier about toxic fandom. These film fails characters aren't really saying anything constructive about the movie. They're basically just pouting that it's not the Stab that they know and are comfortable with. And when I think more about it, there is actually precedent for this. Sunrise Studios doesn't exist. It was just a parody of a predatory movie studio. KQIS6 doesn't exist either. It's a parody of bloodthirsty journalism. Film Fails, more specifically, seems to be a parody of YouTube channels that screeched about Star Wars The Last Jedi in 2017. Judging by that Dead Meat upload on the side, Rian Johnson on Reinventing Stab. Rian Johnson was the director of that heavily debated Star Wars title, and often the target of vitriol from fans and content creators. I'm sure there are many people that would like you to believe that The Last Jedi was divisive or controversial, but if you actually look at the ratings, most people just found it to be very average. I already talked about Film Fail's subscriber count being Wes Craven's birthday, but the view count is also significant. It has 122,096 views, 12/20/96. December 20th, 1996 was the release date of the original Scream. Then there's the like to dislike ratio. It has 1,117 likes and 20 dislikes. 11/17/20, or November 17th, 2020, was the day that production wrapped on Scream 2022. Thanks to Richie for using the return YouTube dislike extension so we could see that one. On the side, there's a video from Bloody Disgusting's YouTube channel that I mentioned earlier. It's titled Interview with Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed. Kirby was a major character in the fourth movie, and up until now, we were led to believe that she didn't make it, so this is actually big news. The fourth video is called Not My Stab. Join the StabHead Army and hashtag redo Stab 2021, and it's uploaded by a channel called StabHead. There's a bit of a story behind this one, so grab some popcorn. Dreadit is the name of a horror movie community on Reddit. Mindy actually mentions it when she's explaining the fan contempt for Stab 8.
You go on 4chan and Dreadit, all they're talking about is how Stab 8 pissed on their childhoods.
To promote Scream 2022's release, the team behind the movie held an Ask Me Anything session on Dreadit. One user, named StabHead, asked, did any of the actors go above and beyond to prepare for their roles? Their reply was, we were meeting with Jack to talk about his character, and he told us that he had created a Reddit account under the name StabHead to... Wait a minute. We love you, Jack Quaid. Necessary information, Jack Quaid is the actor who played Richie, the second Ghostface killer. The account shows him commenting on topics like Halloween, The Last Jedi, and of course, Scream. So the way I see it, StabHead is actually Richie's online persona. He was the one to create this channel and upload this video. Amber even mentions during the finale that she met Richie on the Stab subreddit. Under the StabHead upload, there's one more video of importance. Did the real-life Stu Macher survive? As I mentioned in my Scream 3 video, the original plan for that movie was to have Stu return as the villain. But since this was right after Columbine, producers decided it was not the best idea to have a high school revenge seeker right now. But this video title suggests that maybe having Stu return in the future is not yet out of the question. If he's alive, then he's been in prison for about 25 years now. Although Stu himself isn't in this movie, his actor has yet another vocal cameo here as the voice of the new silver-faced Ghostface. One of the common complaints about the new Ghostface in Stab 2021 is his new weapon, a flamethrower. Ironically, the new Ghostface in this movie ends up getting herself lit on fire. The link to FilmFell's merch store is hastaelfuego.org, Spanish for Until the Fire, which could also be a clue about Amber's fate. When she has her one last scare moment at the end, she's covered in burn scars, very reminiscent of Freddy Krueger. You can bet that this was by design. About midway through the film, the deaths of Judy and Wes are discovered, and Sam realizes that her sister may be in trouble at the hospital, so she gives Richie a quick call to check on her, and hears an unexpected voice on the other line.
Hello, Samantha.
No.
Richie can't come to the phone right now. What? He's finding out what happens to people who stick their noses in business that doesn't concern them.
It reminds me of Jigsaw re-recording Daniel Matthews' voicemail greeting in Saw 2.
You've reached Daniel's phone. He's not in right now.
I love a good horror movie voicemail greeting. If this was the fourth movie, which had a lot of Saw references, this might be an intentional nod to Saw, but this is the fifth movie, which focuses more on the so-called elevated horror genre. For example, Tara's favorite movie is The Babadook, and she begs to be quizzed on the gems of the mid to late 10s.
Ask me about It Follows, ask me about Hereditary, ask me about The Witch.
She's got really good taste. She describes elevated horror as being scary, but with complex emotional and thematic underpinnings, not just cheesy jump scares, which Richie, as a fan of Stab, isn't thrilled with.
That sounds kind of boring to me.
And in the home theater scene, Stab's slasher stylings and elevated horror are painted to be opposites. A major reason cited for fans not liking the newest Stab movie was crammed in social commentary. So Ritchie was upset that his favorite franchise was trying to ride the trendy wave of elevated horror and set out to craft his own entry more in line with the original by doing a requel. The huge gaping question that leaves is, isn't that exactly what Jill already tried to do? And yes, it is. The only difference was their motivations. Jill did it for fame, but Ritchie and Amber just wanted to motivate the creation of another Stab movie. It doesn't seem like being the star was as important to them. Even if we are to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that these killers are an homage to Scream 4 rather than copying it, there are still a couple of other necessary details to make it make sense, which I didn't fully realize on my first viewing. The first is that there is no Stab movie based on Scream 4. If there was, Ritchie and Amber probably wouldn't have felt the need to make a new one. At the time of Scream 4, there are 7 Stab movies, and in this movie, there's only one new one, hence the hashtag #RedoStab8. Then there's the fact that the original Scream, and really all of the Scream movies, do feature some kind of social commentary, which I've taken time to discuss in each of my Things You Missed videos. So why would Ritchie be upset about the new Stab having social commentary? This is because in the Scream universe, the Stab movies are considered non-fiction. Nobody is making up the plot, so nothing that happens qualifies as commentary.
Because that's how you make a great Stab movie, Sam. Based on actual events.
And this ties right back into the theme of toxic fandom. Ritchie believes that each Stab movie must be like the original. That's why there's so many repeated elements from the original Scream. Like when Tara is trying to defend herself at the hospital.
Ow! Ow! God damn it! Did you hit me with a phone?
Look out!
Must have been thrilling for Ritchie to be reliving events from the original Stab.
You gotta find me first, you pansy-ass mama's boy!
Fucking hit me with the phone!
In some cases, lines are nearly lifted directly from a previous movie.
You think you're still the star?
This isn't a f***ing movie.
It will be.
This isn't a f***ing movie!
No, but it will be.
The final act features plenty more references, some of which you might have noticed, but you probably missed this tiny detail, which was the reason that Mindy was able to survive where others did not.
Welcome to Act 3.
Run!
Before we get to the final act, let's talk about Dewey. His fatal mistake is shooting Amber's bulletproof armor rather than hitting her in the head. He realizes it a little too late. In Scream 3, he makes the same mistake with Roman, but Sidney is there to remind him to aim for the head. This time she isn't, and Dewey pays the price. Given Dewey's ability to survive seemingly fatal blows in the past, I wasn't convinced that he was really done for this time. We've seen this scene before. However, the more I look at it, the more I think he might really be gone this time. He's being taken to the coroner this time, not the ambulance. I doubt the coroner would be called unless some medical professional was really sure that he was dead.
Dewey had to die to make it real, to show that this wasn't just some bullshit, cash-in, run-of-the-mill sequel.
Well, this is awkward. It also fits the blueprint of a requel. When the cast is talking about requels, Mindy brings up Star Wars The Force Awakens as an example. There will be spoilers for Star Wars The Force Awakens here, so if you don't want to hear them, skip forward to the next chapter. The Force Awakens is all about passing the torch to a new set of characters. Luke, Leia, and Han are passing it off to Rey, Finn, and Poe. This is accentuated by the death of a legacy character, Han Solo. So Scream 2022 is doing the same here by killing off Dewey, as the torch is passed from Sidney, Dewey, and Gale to Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad. And just as The Force Awakens brought back familiar locations like the Millennium Falcon and the Starkiller, which is basically the Death Star, Scream 2022 brings back the Macher household, which plays host to another party, which is probably the most tasteless thing ever, considering it's supposedly supposed to honor their friend Wes, but it looks like a typical college party. I guess it's kind of fitting though, considering the existence of this movie. Here we see a few more callbacks. The basement fridge is the new garage fridge.
Not many people have basements in California.
Ritchie is wearing a blue plaid shirt, like former Woodsboro killers Billy Loomis and Jill Roberts. When Sidney arrives, the first door she checks behind is the same one she hid behind when she donned the Ghostface mask in the original Scream. Perhaps the most obvious repeat is the infamous look behind you scene, which we've seen play out in various forms across most Scream movies. Mindy is the new Randy, so fittingly she's the one being snuck up on, but unlike Randy, she realizes it and attempts to get out of the way. This is partially because she knows she's in a movie and she might be a little bit sharper than Randy, but there's also an important clue in Stab. There are a couple of VHS tapes on the table behind Stab Randy. I think the top one might be The People Under the Stairs, another Wes Craven reference, and I'm having a hard time making out what the bottom one is. Let me know if you recognize it, but look directly below the TV she's watching on and you'll see 3 VHS tapes, 2 of which are the same 2 on the table behind Randy. There's a slightly better look at it later when Sam is tending to Mindy's injuries. It's definitely the same 2 tapes. Mindy, by the way, does survive, which could be related to this little line from Scream 4.
In fact, the only surefire way to survive a modern horror movie, you pretty much have to be gay.
It also helps to be the daughter of a serial killer, as it turns out. She may be related to Billy Loomis, but Sam wipes her knife off a lot more like Stu Macher. Now, before I get into the ending and my views on what this really means for the franchise, I've got to go over all of the evidence seen throughout the film that proves who the killers really were, as I have at the end of each of my Scream analysis videos. So let's take it back one more time to the start. In the opening, Tara invites Amber to come over, mentioning that her mom was out of town. Amber and Richie were probably waiting for an opportunity like this and used it to decide that this would be the night that they strike. When Tara starts receiving concerning phone calls, she gets a text from Amber which says, "You should answer it." The caller explains that Amber's phone was cloned and no one really questions it. But the easier and correct explanation is that Amber was just the killer, using her own phone. When Sam gets a Ghostface call in the hospital, it's also from Amber's phone. Amber and Richie have to act like they're meeting for the first time. We see her look at him very lustfully, which makes more sense now knowing that they were secretly a couple. Sam is attacked at the hospital at the same time that Amber was being questioned by Hicks at the police station, which means this one must have been Richie. This is the same old trick used to get Billy Loomis off the hook in Scream and get Roman off the hook in Scream 3. When are they gonna learn that there are always multiple killers? Then there's the scene where Dewey correctly predicts a killer by accusing Richie. This is just like Randy in the original Scream. His first guess is Billy, and it's correct.
He's got killer printed all over his forehead.
The most damning evidence comes after he kicks Richie and Sam out though. Listen to what Richie has to say about him.
Jesus. Yeah, he's way more fun in the movies.
Notice the plural use of the word movies. At this point in the story, he claims that he's only seen one Stab movie, the original. When he and Sam were driving to Woodsboro, he claimed to have no idea about the Stab movies, and then at the hospital, he says he's watching the first one on Netflix so he can be prepared. Lucky for him, Sam doesn't seem to notice this slip up. While it's not necessarily evidence, I do think the fact that he spends his spare time watching vitriol about Stab 2021 is kind of telling about where his interests lie, even if his reasoning is that he's trying to learn about the franchise. Later on, during the second attack at the hospital, Amber cuts Richie in the forearm. We saw this in Scream form, where Jill was cut in the same spot by her fellow accomplice as a way to deflect suspicion away from her. In my previous video, I labeled this as a nod to Scream 2, where Derek is cut in the forearm, and Dewey finds it suspicious because the cut conveniently missed any major arteries. Despite some of the well-hidden evidence that I mentioned, I found these killers to be pretty obvious. Perhaps the fact that they are so similar to the killers from the last movie made them stand out a little bit more. We close with the same pullout shot of a news anchor giving a report in front of the house, but this time it is not Gale Weathers. Like the main characters and the filmmakers, the news anchor microphone has been passed down to the next generation. At the end, over the dedication to the series' late former director, we hear a bird call. It links back to all of the bird artwork seen in Amber's house. It's all part of one last tribute to Scream's iconic director Wes Craven, who, in his spare time, was an avid bird watcher. The sound at the end of Scream 2022 is the call of the whippoorwill, a sound effect that Craven has actually used a few times in his films. In this 2008 interview in the bird enthusiast magazine Audubon, he explains how he has used bird sounds as sort of an orchestration in his work. I've used the whippoorwill a few times, probably inappropriately, but it's such a haunting sound, and I do remember the sound from being a kid in the woods of Ohio and on camping trips. But yeah, I think they're used a lot in Hollywood. I would be the first to confess that accuracy is probably not the first motivation. We get a quick flash of somebody in a Ghostface mask wiping off a knife before the credits roll, maybe an homage to the quick scare seen before the credits of Scream and in Scream 2. No such scare occurs in Scream 3 or 4. To me, the implication is that seeing a new Ghostface right before the end credits is teasing a sequel. We don't see it in 3 because Roman is defeated, and for now, that means the end of the series. While Scream 4 was not planned to be the final movie, it was the end of that era of Scream, and there's nothing in the story that prevents the 4th movie from being the final chapter. Unlike Scream 1, which specifically has a line about how there's gotta be a sequel, and Scream 2, which specifically has a line suggesting that it's a trilogy. So the quick flash of Ghostface at the end of Scream 2022, to me, is the director's way of telling us that they planned for a sequel. And with a 6th movie being given the go-ahead before the 5th was even globally released, it seems likely the next chapter was planned, and it'll tie in nicely with the material in the 2022 offering. If you're excited for Scream 6, you're in the right place, because I'll be covering it here on this channel when it comes out. So make sure you're subscribed to CZsWorld for new horrors every week, ring the death bell and select all notifications so you don't miss anything, and I will see you in the next one, assuming we both survive.